Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this white, blue and black or Esper colored control deck. So it's a bit confusing if you're coming from Final Fantasy. Esper does have a meaning in Magic. And we've got Y'shtola, Knights Blessed at the helm, a 4 mana, 2/4 with Vigilance, saying at the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, we get to draw a card. So this triggers in each end step. So let's say our opponent is attacking us with a bunch of creatures while we control Y'shtola. We'll have lost 4 or more life. Then in the opponent's end step we also get to draw an extra card, and we can also often enable Y'shtola in our own turn. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and we gain 2 life. So maybe we get an attack in for 2 damage with Y'shtola, and then we cast one non-creature spell that fits the description. Then we'll have dealt 4 damage total, we get to draw another card end of turn. But this deck is also pretty good at casting multiple expensive spells in the same turn, since we have a bunch of mana accelerants. So that's another way to trigger Y'shtola twice, and then end of turn get to draw that extra card. And if we take a look at our deck breakdown, you'll notice we're very light on win conditions, so we're mostly relying on our commander to end the game, especially once we've kind of stabilized and developed our mana. Even if our opponent removes Y'shtola once or twice, it's not impossible to redeploy, and then sooner or later we're going to draw enough answers for all the opponent's threats, and then Y'shtola can comfortably take over. And if we look at our breakdown, our first category is mana acceleration, and mana artifacts, especially ones that cost 3 or more mana, can also maybe trigger Y'shtola, so we can get additional value besides, of course, getting more mana in play, making it easier to redeploy our commander and cast multiple spells in one turn. Then we've got a whole bunch of spot removal, only 2 counter spells with Wash Away and of course Mana Drain, still legal in Brawl for some reason. And then a lot of these spot removal spells can also maybe get a discount, so even though they're still considered mana value 3 or more, we can often still cast them on the cheap. Any good control deck needs to have some card draw effects, and we've got a lot of them outside of Y'shtola's ability, so we don't run out. And then we've got a couple sweepers as well, and these of course will also often trigger Y'shtola in the process. We've got some one-sided board wipes, so we don't need to necessarily lose our own commander while casting them. And then I've got the tapped creatures section. We've got 2 enchantments that ensure that opposing creatures enter tapped, and a whole bunch of 5 mana removal spells that get a 2 or 3 mana discount if they target a tapped creature or permanent. So those also have excellent synergy, and that's another great way to cheaply trigger our commander. And then the miscellaneous section has a few more threats and a couple ways to take extra turns, because those also work very well if we get to untap with our commander. So that was the rough breakdown. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration. Crow Mox and Dark Ritual can lead to some silly starts. Then we've got a whole bunch of 2 mana ramp artifacts. These are not going to trigger Y'shtola, but are still a good way to get our mana going. Maybe play our commander on turn 3 already if we feel comfortable. And then at 3 mana, there's Midnight Clock, can also eventually refresh our hand. Urza can discount both artifacts, which we have a lot of, as well as instant and sorcery spells, so that's perfect. And we're also running the Mightstone and Weakstone, so occasionally we might actually get to meld into Urza Planeswalker. The Mightstone also just a fine card in this deck as removal or card draw that can still help cast our other artifacts. Then there's a File of Galadriel, also good in a deck that often ends up drawing more cards or gaining life, so we can maybe get the benefit from the various abilities. Relic of Legends is also good with a vigilant creature, so it can still attack and then tap for mana, so we can maybe make 2 mana with the Relic. And then the Celestus can also maybe improve our hand as it switches between day and night. The Worn Power Stone can make 2 mana if we get to untap with it. And then Gilded Lotus also makes a lot of sense here, as we can maybe cast it with our commander in play, triggering it a first time, and then immediately make 3 mana of 1 color to maybe cast another non-creature spell and trigger it a second time. Then our spot removal includes the classics, Swords to Plowshares in white, Fatal Push in black, also running 1 discard spell, just the best one with Thoughtseize. Then I've mentioned having 2 counter spells, Wash Away of course very good at cheaply countering opposing commanders, and Mana Drain sadly still in the format, but also very powerful, especially with all these artifacts to sink a bunch of mana into. Then we've got some more flexible answers, starting at 3 mana with Stroke of Midnight, leaving the opponent with a 1/1 token. Sink into Stupor can bounce a spell that's on the stack or something that's in play. Dismember's also great with Y'shtola, as we can often cast it for 1 mana and 4 life, but it still counts as a 3+ mana card to trigger our commander. Then Anguished Unmaking and Void Rend can also deal with all sorts of permanents. And the Aura Sight will exile an opposing non-land permanent while still making additional mana for us. And then we've got more spells that can be cast at a discount, deem inferior, especially if we've drawn additional cards, but just from our draw step alone it discounts down to 3 mana. Baleful Mastery we can maybe cast for 1 and a black, and Price of Fame 2 mana if it targets a legendary creature. And then Fel the Profane, another land that can also double up as a removal spell. And then our card draw effects include Brain Surge, especially powerful if we have a fetch land alongside it to shuffle away unwanted cards. Stock Up is great, digging 5 cards deep. Black Market Connections and Phyrexian Arena are enchantments that can draw additional cards each turn at the cost of life, and paying life for additional cards can actually be an advantage with Y'shtola, since it doesn't say that our opponent needs to lose 4 life in our turn in order to draw an extra card. If we've lost 4 life between all these card draw engines and maybe some fetch lands and shock lands, we can also deal ourselves 4 damage to get the extra card end of turn. And Painful Truths continues that theme as we can pay 3 life to draw 3. Risky Shortcut can make each player lose 2 life as we draw 2, so another good way to set up Y'shtola. And of course the One Ring, also incredibly powerful, can also exchange a life total for additional cards, which in turn can also enable our commander. The Immortal Sun's also quite good since we're not running any Planeswalkers ourselves, so can shut them all down while giving our spells a discount. Also makes it easier to double spell while also drawing an extra card each turn. And then the Delve spells, Treasure Cruise and the Dig Through Time can also cheaply provide additional cards, especially with the fetch lands adding extra cards to the graveyard. Then our board wipes include Split Up, also quite synergistic with our enchantments, letting opposing creatures enter tapped. Toxic Deluge can also exchange life total to wipe the board, so can also enable our commander. And then the various expertise cards are also a great way to cast multiple expensive non-creature spells with our commander in play to trigger it twice for just 4 mana potentially when casting the expertise. Our commander will survive the -3/-3, and Brawl's expertise can bounce multiple creatures and or artifacts while casting another spell with mana value 4 or less for free. There's Time Wipe as a board wipe that lets us pick up our commanders so it doesn't go back to the command zone. Farewell can also be incredibly devastating, especially against enchantments if we don't have many of them in play. And a River's Rebuke to send everything packing. Not playing with Cyclonic Rift, because even if we overload it, it would not trigger Y'shtola. And then our tapped creature package includes Authority, which will also gain us additional life, and Blind Obedience has Extort, so we can sink additional black and or white mana into it to drain the opponent to death while their creatures enter tapped, so we can set up our Fate. Luminous Rebuke, Right End is the best one since it exiles opposing creatures, and Seized from Slumber. And then our miscellaneous section has multiple extra turn cards with Manipulation, Time Warp, and Temporal Trespass, another Delve card that can make use of our graveyard. Then Lingering Souls is also pretty fun, since we can trigger Y'shtola twice with it, once when we cast it, once again when we flash it back for just 2 mana, making a bunch of spirit tokens. Sheoldred's excellent in a deck that can draw a lot of cards, and then Dark Petition is also often enabled with Spell Mastery as a tutor effect that will give us 3 black mana, maybe enough to cast one of our card draw enchantments afterwards, or maybe set up something else powerful. And then the mana base is pretty straightforward, 2 of each basic to search up with our many fetch lands, couple channel lands for added utility, but mostly just solid mana fixing between shock lands, check lands, the Verge lands now as well, Surveil lands in every color to improve our draw steps, and then the fetch lands to search them up. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Tifa, so we're gonna need cheap interaction ideally. And Split Up is not a bad way to deal with it, even if they have a way to give it a hexproof. And then, yeah, the rest of my hand seems functional. So turn 1 could play Authority, or I can just get a Surveil land, turn 2 Authority, play tapped Stupor. Alright, Chromox, I guess can set up a turn 1 Tifa. That's potentially a problem. So if our opponent's got the perfect hands, they could win on turn 2. But it's gonna take something special. Here I just get the Backstreet. And yeah, I think I keep the land still. The Authority is not gonna save me. Could keep Sync in hand as a bounce spell, but we have Split Up and eventually Expertise, so don't think I need to keep it. I'll save myself 3 damage, which could matter. And the fact that they don't have a fetch land means I should at least be safe. And restoration without a 4-powered creature, so only 2 lands. So yeah, could have been a lot worse. Just take 8. And then now we can also deem inferior, keep the split up for later, while the opponent's tapped out. Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. So they might send it back to the command zone. So now they can redeploy it for 4 mana. And now we can split up. Too dangerous to let them untap with it. Otherwise we could have gone for Y'shtola, next turn expertise plus stock up, trigger it twice. And then bouncing the Chromox with expertise is pretty good value. Okay, so yeah, I could take a turn off playing Y'shtola. Don't hate it. And then next turn expertise. Opponent's got Go Forth coming up. Yeah, that seems fine. Now Rampant Growth on top, so no free land with Oracle yet. But maybe if they shuffle here... Nope, just Birds of Paradise. Now Harrow can shuffle. Grow the Chocobo. But we're probably gonna send it packing. And Escape Shift too. Well, that would have been incredibly deadly with Tifa on the battlefield. With a Chocobo, it's still gonna hurt, but we can manage. And then opponent could maybe still play a land over the top with Oracle. And they get 2 of the new Capenna fetch lands, which will get another land for the Chocobo. So yeah, as I've said, it's gonna hurt. But we're not dead. And expertise will be a nice reset button. Get to draw a card as well. Alright, so could also just destroy the opponent's tapped creature. But bouncing it seems like a good solution for now. And then maybe start by attacking. Then I can relic and still expertise. Cast a free stock up. Find more answers. Time wipe Fatal Push. And draw end of turn. Alright, not bad. Authority perfectly sets up our Seized from Slumber. Opponent's gonna pitch something to Chromox again. Play Chocobo. And then we might see Oracle. Fatal Push still answers Tifa. I'm glad they're using up all their fetch lands here. So maybe they are going for Tifa after all. No, it's gonna be Lumera. That explains why they used up all their fetch lands. Since they can get them all back. Well, that's a problem. So they still have a bunch of fetch lands they can reuse. The gates to seek. We can deal with what's in play. But yeah. Start by attacking. Time wipe. Pick up Y'shtola. And redeploy it. Still have fetch land to enable revolts. Draw a card end of turn. And can technically still Fatal Push thanks to the Relic, although it's without Revolt. And yeah, opponent still has all those fetch lands for Tifa, so can't feel too comfortable. Yeah, I've never gotten this deep into a game, either playing with or against Tifa. Usually the games are over by turn 4, turn 5. Excavator, another way to replay lands. So our opponent's got infinite mana to replay Tifa. So the only reason to destroy it is if it's attacking for lethal, pretty much. The Oasis can also pump it up. And to Forgotten Cellar. That's too bad, because now our opponent can replay Lumira. And then we're faced with a similar problem. And they could also go for Scapeshift. But yeah, I imagine Lumira is the most straightforward play. Chocobo into Lumira. Can push the Chocobo now. And then seize Lumira. Yeah, we won't be able to make our opponent lose 4 life even if they fetch a few more times. Because yeah, Fatal Push does not trigger Y'shtola. Opponent goes for Bill. So they only have this turn to use the Cellar. And I guess the fetch lands also get exiled now by the Cellar, so that's maybe why they didn't go for Lumira, since the fetch lands would be gone. And maybe I should Fatal Push Bill while I can, before they get more counters. They can fetch in response to get one more landfall. But they don't. And then do we see Scapeshift again? It's gonna be loot. And the Reclaimer. Did end up drawing with Y'shtola end of turn. But yeah, we've got our work cut out for us. Maybe start by drawing with Mindstone. Could also Surveil first. Improve my odds of hitting something relevant. Brain Surge would be a good one. So I can play, sacrifice. Cast a Brain Surge, and then still, at the very least, seize. Don't think I'll need Dark Ritual necessarily. Alright, Temporal Trespass. I guess I could cast that. I've got a pretty full graveyard. And I might even keep the Treasure Cruise as well. It does require that I Chromox a blue spell, so I guess I would have to pitch the Treasure Cruise. Or I can just cast the Treasure Cruise now. Yeah, that's probably fine. And then put those back, I'll just redraw them. And then I can exile cards I don't need. Get to draw 3. Could also go for connections if we Chromox. I think we just seize and then Oracle versus Chocobo. I mean, I guess I could wait and then seize the Chocobo if it gets too large. Yeah, let's just seize the Chocobo. Seems like the scariest threat. Opponent's at 2 as well, which I hadn't noticed. So they're close to dead. Yeah, it's easy to forget that we're also draining the opponent for 2 each time. but they've also dealt themselves a whole bunch of damage with all their fetch lands. So yeah, as far as we can tell, we should get there next turn. Adventuring Gear, even with a couple fetch lands, still beatable. Although now with the Green Warden, they do get to trigger landfall twice each time. And Oracle can still play an extra land for turn. But that should be it. I guess Reclaimer can get another land. So they actually got somewhat close. Although I think we still would have ended up seizing the Chocobo. So yeah, with the Reclaimer, that's another +4. Oasis is +3. So it is over 20 damage. Passage to make creatures unblockable too. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Ulalek, 5-color Eldrazi. What do we think of our hands? Missing some mana acceleration, perhaps? But still seems functional. River's Rebuke, probably overkill. So can keep up double blue. Cold Steel Heart resolves. Could destroy it with a Stroke of Midnight already. Yeah, not opposed to it. Could also do it in their upkeep, so the token doesn't get to hit me, but then they can maybe float it for mana. Power Stone, good target for the Aura sites. And then Dark Petition's already enabled. Could maybe search up one of our 3-mana card draw engines, like the Black Market Connections. Ooh, Thief of Existence. Yeah, gets to exile the Aura site. So that was a blowout. I guess we can just wipe the board here. Time wipe. We get to draw a card, or I can wait, and for now, still Dark Petition, get my 3-mana card draw enchantment. So I can cast it right now. Yeah, there's a few options here. Toxic Deluge could also wipe the board. But I'm kind of liking the connections. And then hope they go for Ulalek, so next turn we can time wipe. Alright, opponent's got another bounce spell. So don't get to trigger the connections. And then they can maybe bounce everything if they cast a 7+ mana Eldrazi. Now connections and One Ring are maybe a bit at odds since they both lose life, but of course Y'shtola can make up for it. So yeah, opponent might have some removal up here, so don't necessarily want to play my commander yet. Could play the One Ring. And draw, still can't quite deem inferior. Could also just bounce the Power Stone, replay connections, which seems fine. Make it less likely that they can get back the Ugin's Binding. And there's Ulalek. So we can now time wipe. And then let's see here, if I make a treasure... Yeah, I can pretty easily file and then still time wipe. Yeah, let's choose both modes. Brawl's expertise also an option. Although then they get to replay Thief to blow up the connections again. So let's just wipe the board. And then next turn we can maybe get Y'shtola going, start getting some life back. Opponent passes with a bunch of mana up. So now I have to be a bit more conservative with connections. Play one ring. And then probably pass a turn for now. Since our opponent's just keeping up removal. Could have gone Y'shtola into the one ring to at least get a trigger. Opponent going for a spawn gang. That can maybe burn us out if we're not careful. Although we can just bounce all the tokens. So, do I draw with a one ring? I don't think so. Make a treasure. Play Y'shtola. And then we can expertise into Power Stone for free. Our opponent can activate Spawn Gang twice, but then it would have to sacrifice itself in order to take out Y'shtola. Opponent just goes face. Keep Spawn Gang in play. The life gain from file could also be relevant if we ever drop below 5. Which is maybe why they didn't activate the Spawn Gang twice before letting the Y'shtola trigger resolve. They're just gonna chuck it at us. And then I guess we fizzled the expertise, so we didn't get a chance to play the Power Stone for free. That's alright. How much life have we lost this turn? I guess it's at least 4, so this will trigger end of turn. If they're gonna trigger the binding, we can just activate the one ring in response to draw a card for free. Yeah, Breaker of Creation. So that happens. I imagine they'll cast it. Nope, opponent declines. So they're waiting for now. This has hexproof from each color, so not that easy to answer. Yeah, I guess we fetch. Can maybe surveil. Improve our draw. That's a good one. So then, do I draw with the one ring right now? Let's wait. Don't need a treasure anymore. And Shieldred will now make up for all the life loss pretty easily. Can draw with a ring. How much life have I lost? 2 from connections, 1 from the fetch land. Yeah, I guess I can shock myself. We'll draw. And then activate one ring. Can Swords the Breaker. Can bounce it with Otawara, however, which I guess is fine for now as a tempo play. Get in there. I'm sure they're gonna bounce all my stuff now, but that's fine. Alright, back up to 19. Oh, it's gonna be a Mindbender now. Unbinding. Now they're gonna cast it. So we can float some mana in response. And then our opponent could steal something. 3 or less and 4 or greater. So they can't take both Shieldred and the Ring, but they can break up that combo. So they took Shieldred and Connections. And we can just Swords it now if we'd like. Or next turn Split Up. Although Split Up's a better answer to their other Eldrazi. Price of Fame. Alright. So Y'shtola. Play File. Play 1 ring. And then we can still activate. So opponent replays Ulalek. A good target for Price of Fame. So options aplenty. Maybe start with a Midnight Clock. Surveil into more action. Don't think I'll need Dismember. Can Lingering Souls flashback. And still activate the ring. Try and get the game over with. Void Rent's uncounterable, but still doesn't get around hexproof. So Breaker's back. Gain 11 thanks to all the lands, which are considered colorless. Can draw. And draw again, or maybe go for Painful Truths first. And draw 3. Risky shortcuts, sure. Time Warp might seal the deal now. Opponent draws a response. And get in for 4 with the Spirits. And then next turn we can do it again and trigger Y'shtola 1 more time. And there we have it, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Vivi, so the battle of the powerful Final Fantasy commanders. And seems keepable. Opponent's got the turn 1 Ragavan. Yeah, might need to ritual out a Price of Fame to destroy it. Which is a little drastic. But I don't want it hitting me necessarily. Yeah, I think that's fine. We were on the draw, so we were up a card. So I can afford to 2-for-1 myself here. And then... yeah, Yeah, next turn I can play tap lands. I don't think Brawl's expertise is a priority. Have a lot of interaction already. Alright, I guess now I can play an untapped land since this will enter untapped as well. Oracle of the Alpha is acceptable. Play File. Got multiple answers for Vivi, which is a card we need to try and stop. Is our opponent taking a slower approach? Yeah, could play Stola, play a tap land. Make them deal with it. And a sword seems fine. Bit light on card advantage, but that's where maybe our commander can help out. So there's Vivi. Into Sleight of Hand. So if they attack with Oracle, Y'shtola will trigger end of turn to draw, since we've been dealt 4 damage. And they can still opt. Okay, so end of turn, draw swords, untap, Aura Sight, Vivi, attack, and then if they take it, they'll have been dealt 4 damage as well. They do still have a mana up, so they could have interaction. But we have swords just in case. Alright, opponent might actually have interaction for Vivi, or an offer you can't refuse. Okay, so then maybe should have swords Vivi in response. Can still do so now. So took 1 damage that I maybe shouldn't have. So both players have taken 4 more damage this turn. Not in a hurry to split up the Oracle. Well, the Profane's decent, can maybe answer Vivi on the way back. And yeah, opponent found a Mox Ruby of Oracle. Pretty decent, since now they have 2 mana all of a sudden. But once again, if they hit me with Oracle, I get to draw end of turn. Would be pretty bad if our opponent found a Time Walk to take an extra turn for 2 mana. That's where Oracle can be pretty high variance. A Wizard token attacks, interesting. The Wizard token reconsiders. Can channel Odawara for 3 mana, but may as well untap and fell the Profane instead. Take 2. End of turn draw. And Wash Away is also good insurance. A Rebuke could deal with Oracle if we really want to. So let me start here. Take out Vivi, attack. So that's another card drawn end of turn. Yeah, how bad is it if Oracle lives? If I play Odawara, I'll still have a 3 mana Wash Away available. It's probably good enough. It's mostly the Scry that I'm worried about, them being able to get closer to one of their Power 9 cards. Especially Time Walk. So if they replay Vivi, we've got it covered, and then Treasure Cruise, an excellent way to refuel. I'm sorry. And that'll do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Zurgo. So a Mardu mobilized tokens deck. Our hand seems reasonable. We are relying on Signet to make blue. So they can maybe take it with a discard spell. We could be in a bit of trouble. Although turn 3 connections should still help. And then Brain Surge, a good way to trigger Ishtola, find more action. Could try playing our commander turn 3. That is more likely to get answered than the connections. Okay, opponents are ready to give their commander haste. So how does that change things? Well, Mindstone now makes me want to go Mindstone into connections. I'm okay if they get an attack in with Zurgo. Then if we make a treasure next turn, I could maybe play Ishtola and Voidrend. Stroke of Midnight also an option. Yeah, I don't think we're making a 3-2. Split up, I guess now the even easier solution. Assuming I have enough white mana, which should not be a problem. Destroy all tapped creatures, please. And then next turn we get to untap. Can maybe Brain Surge and look for additional land drops. Ishtola gets exiled, that's fine. Was to be expected. Don't necessarily want to spend too many resources redeploying our commander, since a Mardu deck is going to have good removal. So instead we just want to find additional card draw engines and interaction. So I have not drawn land for turn. Could maybe Brain Surge to look for it. And then not gonna need Mind Stone. Okay, and then a fetch land's perfect, so we can shuffle away unwanted cards. Like maybe the Stroke of Midnight, and... yeah, what's my plan this turn? Probably want to deal with the Seer Slicer Goblin, could Swords it. And then can I keep up Mana Drain? If I also play Relic, yeah, the Ironcrag can probably go. And get Hallowed Fountain. Play Relic. Swords. And then we'll still have Mana Drain available. And Drawbridge is acceptable, doesn't pressure my life total by itself. And a Headliner's fine too. So I could go ahead and play Stola now. With Counterspell backup to protect it. Don't think I need to Void Rend anything right now. Probably should have tapped the Mind Stone to cast Ishtola, so we still have more colors available to maybe cast both spells, although a Relic can also tap Ishtola for mana. If we counter a removal spell, we're probably not getting a ton of mana from Mana Drain, but that's okay. No attacks, take our turn. then I can probably stop making treasures. I'll still draw. Price of Fame. Okay, so we can maybe sack the Mind Stone now too. Find an idol. Yeah, could maybe surveil, could have done that before drawing. Gilded Lotus. It's not the worst, it triggers Y'shtola, makes a bunch of mana. Although I will eventually need to find more action. Okay, so we used our mana drain mana. I've lost 2 life this turn. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Could potentially lose 2 more. Can also use fetch lands and shock lands to set that up with the connections. Headliner can attack if it wants. Ganjo, fair enough, can finish off Y'shtola. So now I could maybe Price of Fame the drawbridge on the way out, or just let that happen. If I Price of Fame they can sack it, and then I don't get to surveil, which is not a huge deal. So maybe we'll just Price of Fame the drawbridge, so I don't need to worry about any hasty creatures in the future. At least get an Y'shtola trigger. And then we can get rid of the command tower. Alright, that works. Back to the command zone. Take my turn. So if I get a little bit more aggressive and set myself up to lose 4, then I also get to draw a card with Y'shtola end of turn. Assuming they don't have another removal spell in hand. So let's just take it easy. Only draw 1 card. Find a manipulation, that's a good one. So we can replay Y'shtola. Try to take an extra turn. And that's going to be good enough. Next turn we get to untap, draw more cards, make more mana, trigger Y'shtola a bunch, and take over. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing a Lamb Stormcrane Elder. So we better find a sweeper to have a chance in this matchup. This does not quite fit the bill. Even though we have some nice ramp into an Immortal Sun. Need to be prepared to wipe the board, turn 4, turn 5. Well, still missing a sweeper, but we can ramp out a One Ring to maybe find something. And we've got some spot removal to maybe keep up. Gotta keep the land still. Alright, Curse is gonna slow down Y'shtola. So we could Dark Ritual the One Ring. Yeah, don't hate it. And then next turn we can start drawing while keeping up interaction. Ooh, wow. I just realized the curse falls off because we gain protection from everything. Well, that's first time seeing that interaction. That's pretty neat. Okay, so we can maybe draw first and then surveil, since I'm still fine drawing a land. And sure, we'll play the Iron Crag. Could have kept a fetch land to enable Revolt as well. Let me get Watery Grave so we have double blue. And then next turn, I guess we can play Y'shtola after all. Enduring Innocence. Potentially worth exiling with a Ride's End. And a mana drain, well, that's a pretty good solution as well. So I think I'll wait on playing Y'shtola so we can maybe have them attack with Innocence so we can then exile it. And a time wipe is a good insurance. So it feels like we've got all the tools we need now. Static Prison, going for the One Ring maybe. That's fine. Alright, please attack with your Enduring Innocence. Alright, so now we get to exile it, which is the cleanest solution. Or Sight can also exile the prison to get the ring back, but our opponent's eventually going to run out of energy. So, could keep up mana drain. Could just go Lotus, which keeps up mana drain. And then next turn I can maybe go for Y'shtola plus something else. Because it's dangerous letting them cast Lamb if they then have a bunch of follow-up. Even though we have the time wipe. And this is why I think mana drain should just be banned in Brawl, since even if you cast it, the game just usually ends, because it's such feels bad for the opponent. So it's not even all that fun if you get to cast it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, playing the mirror match against Y'shtola. So we're in for a long battle. Hand seems functional. Shieldred unlikely to survive, but would be pretty good in the mirror match. Turn 1 Esper Sentinel, alright. Not a card we're playing. But yeah, that's gonna slow us down since I don't want them drawing for free. So archive it is. And I guess we'll keep the time wipe if there may be more of a creature heavy build. Opponent's missing their land drop, so can keep developing our mana. Not gonna turn to Y'shtola until we're out of other options. Opponent commandeers Defile, pitching 2 blue cards from hand. Alright, fair enough. That was unexpected. And Grahatia. So yeah, the time wipe's looking good. Don't know if we need to cast it right this second. Can either play Shieldred, have it removed, or play Y'shtola, again with the understanding that it's not going to survive, but then if it does stick around I can pick it up with time wipe as well. Could also just stock up, but we have enough cards in hand as is, not going to miss my land drop. So sure, I'll play Y'shtola. Murderous Rider takes care of it. Right, and then now time wipe looks good. Can Surveil, get a black dual land. Chromox may not really be necessary anymore. Just drawing a land is good enough. Time wipe, pay the 1. And now we're pretty far ahead of mana. Don't think Authority is going to be all that great. Could bait a counterspell with Y'shtola. And trying to have Shieldred survive. Alright, opponent's got the mana drain, so they will get 4 additional mana next turn. Which doesn't feel great, but they were gonna cast it eventually. And maybe now they feel compelled to tap out, which gives us a window to get Shieldred going. Opponent runs out there, Y'shtola. Okay, so Shieldred plus Unmaking looks fine. Could have also cast you Unmaking on the file for what it's worth. So we'll see if they have an answer lined up for Shieldred. Given that they haven't played lands, they probably have more removal in hand. If they're mostly relying on counterspells, Shieldred can go the distance. Okay, maybe start with a stock up. Finding Painful Truths and probably just a land. Fate, I guess, can also destroy their file. But I just want to keep hitting land drops. So we can Truths, draw 3. Opponent's got a Bowmasters in response, wow. Well, that's a pretty good way to punish the card draw. Wouldn't have triggered off stock up since it doesn't technically draw. And they also have a Dismember for Shieldred. So the full package here. That's too bad. Could still Treasure Cruise, but probably not with Bowmaster still around. Alright, so we do need to find an answer to those. Because Treasure Cruise is quite painful otherwise. Price of Fame will do. So Y'shtola is 8 mana. So can't quite Price of Fame alongside it. Could go Y'shtola into Worn Power Stone. Again, somewhat likely to get countered. So maybe it's just a Price of Fame, Lingering Souls kind of turn. And then the flashback on Lingering Souls could be a cheap way to trigger Y'shtola. Alright, opponent unwinds. So they still have mana up. Alright, still go for Lingering Souls, Power Stone. Opponent's definitely making it work with only 4 mana. Alright, looks like they're out of counterspells now. But yeah, Treasure Cruise, not ideal with the Bowmasters around. I think I got a chump. Alright, mana drain is only fair. So I can maybe afford to get in for 1. And then we'll save the Treasure Cruise for next turn. Opponent looking to Demolition Field to maybe fix their colors. Should have an island left. Murderous Rider cast is acceptable. So step 1, attack with the spirits. I'm gonna lose all of them if I Treasure Cruise here, so that's a little awkward. Let me maybe surveil first if I can. Don't need Fabled Passage. Yeah, I mean, if I cruise, I should find something useful. Could also just pass again with mana drain up. This is a race for winning. Yeah, let's just pass. Now they can make an uncounterable Y'shtola. Get in for 3. I mean, I'm happy with the status quo, but gotta imagine there's gonna be something happening end of turn. If I treasure cruise, we also trigger Y'shtola, so then our opponent will have lost 4 lives, so we get to draw again. Yeah, I think it's fine to go for it here. Get rid of lands in case they get shuffled back somehow. Maybe leave some stuff in the graveyard in case we need to delve again. And see what happens. If they counter the treasure cruise, we still get the trigger. So that works for me. Opponent's targeting multiple things here, it seems. I see, Sublime Epiphany. Yeah, let's counter that one. Since it also would have countered Y'shtola's trigger. So they are going after Y'shtola after all, instead of the spirit tokens. So now I can go Blind Obedience, play Urza, pay the 1. End of turn draw, which triggers Bowmasters, which takes care of Y'shtola. But it shouldn't be too difficult to redeploy next turn. Any chance I die at 14 doesn't seem likely, unless there's an extra turn involved. Which I guess is possible. So I'm gonna probably block Murderous Rider still. If there's an extra turn, I can jump their army next turn. Save myself more damage. I guess our opponent back up to 6 thanks to my own file. It betrayed us. Although with Y'shtola, Connections, and Obedience, we should still get there. And Sunfall wipes the board. Alright, that's fair. Mana Drain mana sets up Y'shtola. Pay the 1. Connections. Pay the 1. And then can I Reverse Rebuke for the win? I think I can. Just triggering Y'shtola one more time. And I can finally get my file back as well. And there we have it. Awesome. Well, that was an epic mirror match to end it all. So overall, this Esper control deck is very powerful if you get your engines going, ideally if Y'shtola sticks around, but often we'll have other card draw effects to complement it, so we don't need to rely on our commander too much until we're ready to protect it or recast it once we've built up enough mana. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.